Hey everybody, it's Monday, and we are back with another episode of SideKick Power Hour. I'm your host, Joshua R. Pangborn, and if you have been here before, you know that we are the live stream version of the Sidekick Productions Cruniverse world. And if this is your first time being here, welcome. We do a lot of chatting about what we do in the world of queer, fat positive, sex positive film and television, and we bring on some really special guests to talk about what they do in similar worlds. Usually either queer guests, guests who talk about fat positivity in their work, or guests who do a little bit of horror or a lot of horror, depending. Since we primarily work in horror filmmaking ourselves. So. It has been a week since I last saw you all, and I'm really thrilled to be back with a wonderful guest. But before we get there, I just want to remind you all that we have still a little bit of work to do in our post production. And what are we doing post production for? Well, we are working on our post production for The Contract. So if you are able to help us at all, please go to our if I can find the banner for it. I have so many banners. I need to delete some of these probably. Here we go. We are still trying to work on post production. If you can go to thecontractfilm.com right now, we could use your help. We could use a little bit of support in making this happen and making this movie come to life. I'll probably show you a trailer for The Contract if you haven't seen it yet in a little bit. But first, I think I'm going to bring on our guest because our guest has more than a little bit to do with the world of queer horror, especially. Everyone, please welcome our dear friend, Gay of the Dead themselves, Sean.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sean?
I'm very well. Next to my favorite friends here, aka my books.
Well, they are often the best friends you have. I had to remodel my apartment a while ago, and all of my books and bookshelves are in a storage unit, and I don't know if I'll
Oh,
ever see them again, and it's really sad.
oh no, that's no, no, no. Oh my gosh, I can't. I can't. I couldn't even imagine. Like my fantasy. I have these fantasies of living in non-traditional spaces that I convert to a home, and one of
Mhm.
them would be a library with all the books still there. Like,
Oh,
oh,
I'd
it would
love to
be the
live in a
best.
library. Like that library from Beauty and the Beast. I would just love that to be my like home, basically.
Yeah,
So,
there was a kid's book that was about people living in a library, and it was been made into a movie. And of course, I'm forgetting the name of it, but that was
I think I know that one.
obviously my fantasy.
That would be great, though. I mean, I also would enjoy living in a museum, though, because when you think of children's books, I don't know if you read The Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. It was about two kids who moved into the Met. They ran away from home and moved in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And as a kid who wanted to live in New York City and also thought it would be really cool to live in a museum, that was like the best book ever when I was a kid.
Oh, absolutely, anything like that. Yes, well, I was such a bookworm as a kid. Uh,
Same.
so I just read voraciously. So yeah, that was definitely on the list.
And right over your shoulder is a book I think that everyone should know about, right? The right shoulder, I believe.
I'm trying to
Uh,
do this backwards in my
Give us your best Vanna
camera.
White, please. And
There it is. Yes, my
uh,
book.
yeah, tell us about your book.
Well, that book back there, that's Queer Horror a Film Guide, and that is a 500-page encyclopedia of almost 1,000 films, horror films that have LGBTQ content in them, and not coded, but literally content, some form of content in them. And it was I created it, I co-edited it with Tyler Dupay, and we had a group of 6 writers that worked on it with us. Took 7 years to write. So
7 years, but I mean
yes,
that's a lot of films you had to go through though to add them. So
and I watched them all. Like I didn't write. I wrote, I'd say, about a third of the entries myself, um, but Tyler and I edited all the entries, and so I watched every film. Sometimes with half an eye toward the screen, but I have seen them
yeah, no,
all.
I understand.
Yeah. So yeah, so if don't quiz me because I have a terrible memory, but it's all up there somewhere.
And if you don't have to be quizzed, you have an open book right there. You can just go do an open book exam. So
I know, absolutely. Yeah,
And I guess speaking of other books, you helped me out with a book too recently.
I
You
did.
you were kind enough to come on and do the foreword for the hardcover version of Homophobias, which I was so grateful for, and you did it in such a short amount of time too. It was like a very quick turnaround. So
Yeah, well, it was really easy to write because I was really excited to do it, and I was so flattered that you asked me. Um, and yeah, I was just, I think, not to butter you up because I'm already on the show, but,
but
but
butter anyway. I do love
right,
good butter.
sure. Who doesn't like butter? You and I are certainly people that enjoy butter. Um, I think what you are doing is really important and sort of groundbreaking. And so I was really just like thrilled to be even a tiny part of it. So thank you for asking.
No, my pleasure. I mean, when Defeer talked about maybe having a foreword for the book, we both couldn't think of anyone else other than you first. Like
Oh,
you were the first one to pop in both of our heads, independent of the other. So,
oh,
um, so,
thank you.
so you have made an impression on both of us as well. So,
Oh, that's super sweet. That another. It's also randomly, not to make this about, might make your book about me, but I've written, now I can like check off like forward to a work of fiction on the things that I've written because I've written so many different things, and that was one of the few that I hadn't done. So
well, I
thank you
am
for that
glad to
too.
help you with that. I'm always glad to be a good checkbox. So there we go. But you do so much with queer horror, and that's why sort of it was obvious for me because I mean this year you've been doing a ton of panels on queer horror around everywhere really. So
Yeah, it's been really nice. That a million years ago, and I honestly can't remember the exact year, I started the queer horror panel at Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con. And I did that for a few years, and then I went off to grad school, and I handed that off to Michael Verratti, a dear friend who's also a contributor to that book back there, dear friend, and he has steered that ship nobly ever since then. But since the book came out, and there's more conventions now. Like back when,
mhm.
when there was a time when San Diego Comic Con was one of very few, and now just in Los Angeles, I'm in Los Angeles, there are so many different conventions in the area, and so I've just sort of made it my mission to spread the gospel of queer horror in various flavors,
Mhm.
as much as I can. We just did a panel for Los Angeles Comic Con, which was in defense of problematic films. And
Mm.
I gathered some awesome queer people to basically talk about those movies that, that some people would maybe put in movie jail, or maybe we were supposed to be mad about in the past, or maybe don't have great representation, but that we still love despite those things. Um, and so that was a fun, like, different way to talk about
What were
queer
some of the
horror.
movies on that panel?
Let's see. We had
Not to
Abby.
put your memory on the spot or
Oh,
anything.
that's okay. No, I'm just going. You'll see me look. I'm looking over here, but what I'm actually doing is looking at the little television screen of the film of that panel. I'm just sort of going, using my visual memory. We talked about Abby. So we
Okay.
had on the panel were Terry Gamble, and she brought up Abby. William, and she's a podcaster, a horror movie survival guide, and actor about town. And they did Abby and William O'Tyler, who is a comic artist and writer. He brought to the table Silence of the Lambs was one of them, which is
Oh,
that's a
okay.
tough one. That's a tough one to, to defend. We talked about Rocky Horror actually, because there's this sort of, you know the kids today.
They do not like Rocky Horror as much as we do. So
They sure don't, and I think that's a shame. But we did talk about that at length. Just the fact that, you know, if we if we look at a movie on its face, it will have elements that, there's sort of this reflexive thing that's happening right now with culture where if I see it, and it's something that is a subject matter that is upsetting, I am upset by it,
mhm,
which takes out all the context, right? Like
mhm.
Rocky Horror, for instance, let's talk about consent. There's some very murky consent in that film. Frankenfurter seduces or forces himself on both Brad and Janet. And, that in the context of if you just look at that on its face, that could be, offensive to you. But in the context of the film, Frankenfurter's the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And those are villainous acts. If you're going to have a villain, you have to have villainous acts. And he pays for those acts dearly in the end. And so, in my mind, that gets a pass. That passes muster. I think that where the problem lies, now I'm going to go off on a tangent, where the problem lies with that film is that Tim Curry does his job too well. Right? Because Tim Curry's the villain of the piece, and a good actor will attempt to get an audience's empathy for their villainy, right? And Tim Curry does that, and he's just like, he's so sexy, and he seduces us, and who wouldn't want to have sex with Tim Curry, gay, straight, in between, like, he's just like, and so we forget that he's a villain. Yeah. And so that makes it I think in some people's mind, we're supposed to be rooting for him. And so I think that's where a little bit, for that film specifically, I think that's where a little bit of that comes from.
Well, I think in general, people are too. On Twitter, it's very common to talk about the lack of media literacy these days. But I think that is a very valid thing to talk about, because people don't understand the difference between a character doing something bad and the movie supporting that character doing something bad.
Right.
And just because a character does something bad doesn't mean the movie says they're right.
Well, and the lesson of Rocky Horror is, don't dream it, be it. That is ushered generations of queer children into their true selves, right? The moral of the movie is that there are good and bad ways to do that, right? To bring about someone's sort of blossoming or what have you, maturation into their real selves. So yeah, media literacy has just really taken a hit, and nobody reads a book. It's just if I see it and it's a negative subject, then it is bad, and that is just it's truly the death of art, as far as I'm concerned.
Was Sleepaway Camp on your panel?
Yeah, I always have to point to Harmony Colangelo of the Wives Colangelo, who wrote Harmony is Trans, and Harmony wrote probably the seminal piece of journalism defending Sleepaway Camp as not a trans story. And I don't know if Harmony puts it in that specific, but Harmony and her wife BJ Colangelo also wrote a book on Sleepaway Camp, and they go very much in depth on the film. But Harmony's contention is that Angela, spoiler, Angela is not transgender. Angela is a victim of forced feminization. And certainly that's in the trans sort of like, we've broadened these categories out so much these days that sometimes they're almost meaningless, but it does certainly fall under the trans umbrella, but it's not the trans story that people accuse it of being. And so I think Sleepaway Camp is a great example of a film that's come back around, and with a nuanced, like, intellectual academic eye can be defended very easily, as far as a film that deserves a get out of jail free card.
Then are you excited for the remake that they're going to be making?
I'm curious. I enjoyed all three of the first ones, even though they had very different pedigrees, and I thought the Return to Sleepaway Camp, I don't know if you've seen that one.
Is that 4?
That's technically the 4th one.
That's the one I can't find, so I never saw it. So
it's tough to find, and it it's got some conceits in it that are just so obvious. Like there's no mystery to it really. Um, and it's a curiosity. I find it a curiosity. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I want that franchise to have a like a through line of production, right?
Yeah.
It just feels like it's one of those, like it's a slam dunk. Like why haven't we had 5, 6, 7, 8? Like what's going on there? I'm assuming it's a rights issue that is keeping that gold mine of a franchise from feeding us even more.
More camp.
More
Many
camp, more
in many ways.
right, more trans horror, more, all the good stuff. Yeah.
I had a I was filming something that involved trans character uh, going after a Nazi
Mhm.
character, and I had a lot of trouble finding an actor to do the Nazi character
Mm,
because they not because they didn't want to play a Nazi, but because they didn't want to play a character who was conservative or from the
mm,
conservative ilk that was being killed by a trans person
mm,
uh, because they felt it was not the time in the zeitgeist to do that. I disagree to an extent,
mm,
it's definitely a conversation that people are having, I guess, right now about the trans killer trope,
mm,
not in a way that, not in the stereotypical way of the trans killer trope, but in the way that someone like you or I would do it.
right.
Uh, and they're having that conversation. It was interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing that I think it is a positive that's sort of happening now more and more is that it's about who's telling whose stories, right?
Mhm.
And so there are more trans filmmakers, more trans horror
Yes.
filmmakers, um, and that whole, again, the whole spectrum of gender and uh, that are in the conversation now, creating, and which means, I can just speak as a gay man about like gay representation, right?
Mhm.
There's so much more of it now that we can now have bring some of those tropes back because they're not the only thing we're being fed, right?
Mhm.
Like, so it's funny, I just mentioned Harmony and BJ, but they just did a presentation about like reclaiming the queer villain, right?
Mm.
Like, are there any gay people that are truly to their core like offended by like the gay villain? I
I
I,
think we kind of like them personally.
I agreed. Like, okay, I can't speak for all gay men, and I won't do that. So I apologize for going there. But I really feel like anytime I've ever seen any horror film that has some sort of queer villainy, we're like, yes, like excited. I remember
Not
as
even
a
horror. What about like Jafar or Scar?
right,
Like,
like genre, right? Like
yeah, like
yeah,
like
I,
I love those characters.
same, and so I this actually came up on the panel where most of that stuff is still made by straight people.
Yeah.
There's queer people in the mix, but most of it is like the bigger picture. The controlling voices are straight people. But if they're making the villains queer, LGBTQ, that means that there's something about us that they're afraid of, which means that there's something about us that is powerful.
Hmm.
And although that is a backhanded compliment, I will take it.
I will take it and run with it. So
Right? Yeah. So I think, again, my bigger point being, there's while it's still not enough, it's still not great, it's still not perfect, it's still like largely, you know, negative. There's enough of it happening
yeah,
that I feel like we can embrace and enjoy the stuff that maybe we were told and felt like we had to, as a procedure, condemn previously. That's at least, like, I'm gonna be 60 next year, so I'm at the point where I don't care anymore. Like, I've done my time, I've done my due diligence, and like fighting the good fight. I worked on that book back there, and now I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy the films I enjoy. I'll have these conversations about it, but I'm not out there with a torch and a pitchfork.
Yeah.
Unless
What?
it's really egregious. You know what? I take that back. Because I just went and saw Begonia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Begonia. And there's a subplot in there about a gay child molester. And it's cast with let's talk about fat horror. It's cast from the central casting, fat, balding, mustache only, ugly, and if you can't see me, I'm putting air quotes, gay child molester. And if that had anything to do with the plot of the movie, anything, I would be like, you know what, that's their choice. They get to do that. But it has zero to do with it.
I was confused by that plot line. I was just like, I'm not sure what the purpose of it is at all.
It just, I mean, there's infinite ways that film could have set up conflict between those two characters, like, as kids, right? Bullying, anything, crime. Like there's a million different ways, and they chose the oldest, laziest one in the book. So that one, yeah, that one, no, I did not enjoy, and I'll say something about it, and I'm not gonna, just sit back and be like, well, yeah.
It's interesting. I think I don't know much about the actor. But my boyfriend and a friend know of him because he's based out of New York City. He's apparently a really popular podcaster and comic, and he's Greek. And Yorgos Lanthimos is a very Greek man,
Yes.
obviously. So it sounds like he may have gone in this direction because of his his passion for Greek performers, but I'm not sure. Just like The Mask was Jennifer Aniston, because I found out recently that Jennifer Aniston is Greek, which I had no idea about.
Oh yeah.
So, but my boss is very, very passionately Greek, and he told me literally the day before I saw Begonia, he's like, somehow Jennifer Aniston came up, and he's like, oh, she's Greek, and I'm like, I had no idea.
That's hilarious.
Boom, there's her mask. So.
Right. It's one of those things where, if that was, the filmmaker's like explanation why I cast that dude, okay. But I look at it like there was a show. Do you remember the Sarah Silverman program? Did you ever watch that?
I do. I watched like an episode here or there.
There were two characters in it. There was these two gay characters they played.
Oh, one was Steve Agee, wasn't it? Or
yes.
Yes.
And oh god, I wish I could remember the name of the other actor. I see him all the time. Anyway, and they're a gay couple, and they never touched or hugged or kissed or showed any affection. And it's two straight performers, and the explanation was, well, they're just like regular gay dudes, like they aren't like making out all the time, blah blah blah, which is fine, but in the aggregate, it's still two more sexless gay characters on television.
Yep.
So even if this guy is the filmmaker's friend or like a famous Greek person that he wanted to use because he's Greek, in the aggregate, it's still yet another stock character representation that we can add to the pile.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie except for that. Like I know people are very divided on this film. They're divided on his work. I've enjoyed all of his work so far.
Oh, I love his work overall.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything I don't like.
Yeah.
I was confused by this particular storyline though. I'm with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
So
I've said this a lot. We as queer people who like horror and genre films have developed a skill where we can watch a movie and enjoy it despite that stuff in it, right? Like we've learned to like look around it.
Well, I think we have to, because I mean, sometimes in horror you get really bad things, but then you watch and you're like, oh, the movie itself, I'm gonna watch all the time. Like Courtney Cox's bangs in Scream 3.
It's so funny because I was on a film. I produced a movie a million years ago called Gay Bed and Breakfast of Terror. And
I know, that was my first exposure to you was that movie. So
well. I'm not going to apologize. I'll just acknowledge that nothing involved in that film is my best work. But at one of the leads, she had to have, blunt cut bangs, and they're sort of Courtney Cox-esque because on set, the person that cut them made the mistake of pulling down her hair and not cutting lower, so they would go to a normal length. So they would, and then Then we had to do reshoots months later after that initial 2-week shoot, and her hair had grown out, and she had to cut her bangs back.
She must have been miserable.
Oh, she was so upset. She was so upset.
But don't sell yourself short on that, because I was on a podcast 2 weeks ago, and that movie came up, and the hosts were raving about it. So
Well, I'll take it then. That what I will say about that film is that it was in that mid 2000s gay, we called it gay horror then.
yeah,
Gay horror sort of, I can't even call it Renaissance because it hadn't existed before. It was basically the inception of gay horror
yeah,
as a genre. And so, my film Socket was in the mix there, Gay Bed and Breakfast of Terror, Gay Zombie, Eulogy for a Vampire.
Creature from the Pink Lagoon, I think, was then too.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of films that all came out around that time, and all, like, I made Socket on my unemployment checks. Like, we all were like emptying our bank accounts to make these movies because we wanted to like work in the genre. So regardless of my feelings of the quality of Gay Bed and Breakfast of Terror, we all worked very hard on that movie, and as did everybody back then. And so it definitely, I think it's earned its place, right?
It has, and it showed. I mean, people look at it as a queer horror film. That is something that whenever you type in queer horror into Google, that is one of the first ones that pops up. So
Sure is.
So this panel on reclaiming controversial horror, this was in July, right? Or
Yes. Whenever Los Angeles Comic Con was, I did a bunch of panels this year, but
I wonder if you would have added weapons to that if it came out. Hadn't been out yet.
As a problematic film?
As a problematic film in terms of queer representation. I've seen a lot of discourse on it.
Agreed. And I, my reflexive thing is like to say, well, like the queer characters, they die in the most horrible way, except for another character, I guess we won't spoil, and it's the most violent, and they
although that character I argue is queer coded, so
true. We could go there. But so, there's that. But if we want to be represented in the genre, we have to be ready to be represented in the genre. And so, like as an actor, like I was an actor for a long time, and all I ever wanted to do was be in horror movies and get killed.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to have that happen a couple times. And I would have loved doing those scenes. I would have loved it.
Agreed.
I would have been so happy to be like part of this super gory death scene in a movie. So, I wish that the rest of the film would have lived up to that scene. I wish you know what I mean? And sort of the climax definitely does. I know people were like criticizing it for their lunch of like 7 hot dogs, which I just found stupid. It's silly. And there's been an explanation about it, since then from the filmmaker, but
I guess I'm also somebody who's like, well, 7 hot dogs doesn't seem like that many. So
between 2 people, are you kidding? My husband and I'd be fighting over that other hot dog.
Exactly. It seems unfair. They're uneven. So
well, here's the thing. So my husband and I, and our social circle of friends, we have this code for, that there are like gay people that are still sort of like working humor from like the 1980s and 90s, like that gay reference. God love them. And one of those things is, it's always like, if you're at a barbecue or something like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, this hot dog is great. And then the gay humor 101 is, I bet you love that hot dog. And so my husband and I, anytime we hear like that sort of basic gay humor and our friends, we retort, I bet you like that hot dog. So we're sitting there watching these 2 gay guys and weapons eating a lunch of hot dogs, and immediately the group text after we all saw the movie was like screen caps at that moment.
Yeah. That was I don't know if you saw that. Apparently originally they were meant to be a hetero couple, and because you probably know that he had to recast the entire movie because of the actor strike. He lost all of the actors except He lost everybody except for the guy who played the junkie.
Oh, interesting.
Everybody
Um,
else had to be recast apparently because Pedro Pascal was originally Josh Brolin's part.
well, now that you're saying that, that's sort of like floating back into the front of my brain. I didn't remember that. But I would be happy to find out more about why he decided to make that couple a gay couple. I mean, again, I, I appreciate the thoughtfulness, if that makes
I
sense.
appreciated that they felt like a real gay couple.
Yeah.
Like
The grocery store scene, 1,000%.
the lunch scene. I mean, 1,000%.
Oh my gosh, that's me and my husband sitting there, like, getting ready to watch television with our whatever that we've made. Although it's been a long time since we had hot dogs for lunch.
True. I don't think I don't remember the last time I've had a hot dog, but either way,
Yeah.
but I know that was a huge bit of discourse this summer. So
I think the more negative discourse was the trans situation. The trans, like that the Amy Madigan's character
yeah, so yeah.
was pinging trans or cross-dresser
Hmm.
of some flavor, and people were not enjoying that. I can't speak to that because I don't come from a place of knowledge on that.
Same. For me, it didn't ring
Yeah,
that way, but I now remember seeing that a little bit as well. Yeah.
yeah. Again, it didn't. Maybe it did. It sort of pinged drag to me less than trans, and I know that they're like parallel tracks, and
Yeah.
sometimes they cross over, but that was where it landed for me. Again, I would never try to dissuade anybody from their interpretation of a film, because
No, of
that's
course.
that's the great thing about art. We all get to have ours. But I do remember a lot of that going around. Yeah.
Yeah, because well, I mean, when you're one of the biggest movies of the summer of the year, really for horror, people are gonna have their opinions about it, I guess.
And I
And
think that's the victory, right? Like, the advertising campaign for that film was the pre-roll,
Mhm.
the pre-rollout with all the video and stuff was great. And because it just made you, like, I went through those first trailers like frame by frame to find the picture of the baseball team. Like, uh, it really, yeah, I think they did their job well. And anytime a horror movie opens well, thumbs up as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree. I've been very happy with a lot of horror this year. That was also pre- presented itself in a way that didn't reveal everything in the trailer.
Sure didn't.
I
Yeah.
wish that Together had only had one trailer come out because that's all I needed. But subsequent trailers did a disservice, I think. But
I'm
uh,
trying to think. There's been a couple lately where the trailers have given so much away, or you thought they gave so much away. Like, I remember Abigail, which wasn't this
yes,
year, but Abigail's like, oh, they kidnap a ballerina girl and she's a vampire. But then the third act, there's new stuff.
it is. I still would have really loved that, not knowing she was a vampire, but I understand why they couldn't do that and get people in the audience in there.
Well, and
But
I think it would have been very hard to cut a trailer where you show that they've kidnapped a little ballerina, and then there's scary stuff happening, and no matter how much you cut around it, not assume that the ballerina is involved. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, the premise of the movie sort of sets that up.
no,
Uh,
absolutely, I agree
yeah,
completely.
but
I
it
like. I think they. I mean, they couldn't do much with that. But they had a really solid concept and a fun concept. I really liked Abigail. People didn't seem to really love it a lot, but at
yeah,
least initially. But I really
I
loved
loved
it.
it.
So.
I loved it. I loved Megan, both Megans. The second Megan, I know people didn't love the second Megan. It was kind of a bomb. I thought it was so fucking fun. Like, I
I
had
thought
a
it was fun.
great,
I watched it on a plane.
yeah.
When I went to LA a couple weeks ago.
All
So
right.
so
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's so
thank you,
cool.
thank you. It's bizarre. It really is bizarre. To have to be in that world and coming from the world that I come from. So it's like it doesn't match sometimes in my head. Like two
Yeah.
different people.
Tell me, like, so is that the first time you've been on a really big set like that, or have you done some
So
other
I
stuff?
did a very small, very quick half-day part on Poker Face on
Oh.
Peacock a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and that was sort of like my big thing. And then all of a sudden, this came about, and not I was there so many days, and it was such a different experience than anything I've ever done. I mean, just the sheer number of crew members that all had one job to do.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what do you mean? You don't have to do other things? This is all you do is pick up the wires? That I don't understand.
It's so yeah. How excited? How many episodes are you in?
I am in 5 episodes. So
What is it? Six,
of
eight?
8 episodes out of 8. So
That's great.
yeah, no, and I only have lines in 2 of them, but I'm you can't miss me in them because I stand out. So uh,
Right.
and I mean, this was such a really well done show in terms of casting of
Mhm.
diversity and authentic representation. I
Mhm.
mean, they made sure to have people of all walks of life, of trans, of queer, of different body types, of different ethnic backgrounds,
Mhm.
and it wasn't done in any sort of pandering way. It wasn't like they
Mhm.
were checking boxes like we have our trans person now, we have our fat person now.
Mhm.
It was just we all felt really authentically us,
Mhm.
and I just think they did such a really good job with that. And honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect, but everyone was so fun on the set too. Like there was never a moment where people had like an ego or you had a director like get angry or frustrated or anything.
Mhm.
I mean, there may have been some things behind closed doors, but in front of the cast and the crew,
Uh,
that didn't happen. And it was just it was such a lovely experience. I can't talk about it enough. And I talked about it when Bearable magazine reached out to me. The thing that I really loved from the beginning was the way that the costume department treated me,
mhm.
because I've talked to actors, like I've had Dominic Burgess on the show, and we've talked a little bit about costuming and all that, and how what it's like to be costumed in when you look like us and all.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I was a little nervous about that whole experience, but the first thing they said when they had to make alterations and I started apologizing to them for the fact that they'd have to do extra work, they're like, our job is to make you feel comfortable, so don't apologize because we want you to feel happy and comfortable in the clothing that you're wearing, and it made the whole experience so much safer feeling.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I was in. I haven't done consistent acting for a really long time, but several years ago, I sort of lucked into this commercial for a movie called Daddy's Home 2, which sounds like an adult film, but it was
It does.
actually it was a Mark Wahlberg and Will
Oh
Ferrell.
yes, I know I know them. I didn't see it, but I
Yeah,
know the movie.
yeah, yeah. So it was Daddy's Home 2, and they were doing a lot of really targeted commercials for the film on different networks, and so they did one for Logo, which was a bunch of bears. Um, Singing a song and dancing around on a Christmas set with like big, huge human scale gifts and things like that.
Mhm.
And we were all in, Christmas sweaters and things like that. And it was interesting walking in because they were ready for us. Like they were ready for a group of big men. And so it wasn't like, and it just felt, because I felt like you, like walking in, like, oh, is this gonna be? Am I gonna watch people like, oh, how are we gonna figure this out? No, they came in with like racks of clothes for like fat dudes, and it was really, I don't know, it was a really great day on set because they treated us with such respect. So I can imagine.
That's lovely. No,
Yeah.
um, because I'm thinking about it. Like I was on a set once for a music video that I guess was for like some Disney stars. It wasn't a Disney music video, but it was like
Mm,
they came out of Disney or something.
right.
And the costumer, they had my sizes and everything, and they're like, yeah, we couldn't find the sizes you had, so here's an extra large shirt. And I'm like, this is not going to fit me. I'm a 3XL on a good day.
Mhm.
So so I but I they poured me into it, and I felt so uncomfortable for the whole day.
Yeah.
Just in that, like, I don't mind fitted shirts, but when they're that tight, it was very uncomfortable.
Right. When they put it into your lap and it's like, this is a problem you've created because of your human body.
Hmm.
Like that's, thumbs down.
I was not a fan of that experience.
No.
And then in the end, I didn't actually even end up being in it. They kept me there all day, and I filmed, but they didn't use my scenes. So,
Yeah.
but that's okay. I still got paid, so that's
Their
okay.
loss. Right.
And yeah, because now I'm on HBO, so the poo poo on them. So
Right. Right.
I can't believe Daddy's Home did a logo commercial. That's so fascinating.
I think at the time it was, if I had to guess, that was all Viacom. It was a time when Viacom owned like all those
Oh,
networks,
sure, yes.
and they owned Paramount, CBS. Like it was all still under one, umbrella. So, and of course, this was, I think it was non-union. I had my union membership had long lapsed, so I felt fine doing it. They paid us; it wasn't for free or anything like that. So, yeah,
That's fun though.
yeah, it was good times.
So as far as queer horror, what are you looking forward to? Are there any movies that you know that's coming along the way, or any you saw this year that we should know about?
Well, I mean, I've been on a bunch of sets lately for Fangoria, which is nice.
I know
Uh,
you've been, and I wore my Fangoria shirt just to honor you because of
Yay!
that. Also, Fangoria, everybody, you should pay attention to Fangoria during June because they do always do a pride shirt, and I think that is something that you don't see companies doing, and
Oh,
especially now.
yeah,
So shout out to Fangoria and Phil and everybody for doing that because I think it's amazing. This is their pride shirt from 2 years ago. So
yeah. By the way, I took that shirt because I don't I love Fangoria. I write for them all the time. So, but the stripes and the color combo, I bought it, but I wore. I just don't love this. So I will show it on my Instagram. I like pulled a bunch of the dye out and I tie dyed it different colors.
interesting. Okay. So you've got a unique one that you can put on eBay someday when you want
One of a
to.
kind. So as far as the sets I'm on, I can't talk about them. Although
Sure.
that's not true. Some of them have come out. So normally when I do these set visits for Fangoria, the movie's shooting, so the article's not going to come out for ages, right? Like a year. Like I've literally got stuff that I was on a set for over a year ago that's still sitting on my computer because the movie's not out yet. But I was lucky enough to go to the VHS Halloween set this
Oh,
year. And the most recent Fangoria has my set visit for that because they turned that around. They shot that, and a month later it was on Shutter. So
they did do that fast. I remember hearing that. Yeah.
yeah, so I liked it. I had a good time with VHS Halloween. It was super fun. So definitely check that out. Um, and the other stuff, like I said, I can't talk about, but I did want to. You said something that made me think about being on a big set versus a small set. So the sets that I've just recently been on have been fairly modestly budgeted,
Hmm.
and on one of them, the producer was also the AD and also the script supervisor, and there was the other one that I was just on. I'm trying to think of what the double up was on that one, like producer doing something else. Yeah. Anyway, so it was interesting because I felt like I was sort of back in my indie movie producing days where it's sort of all hands on deck, which I prefer, honestly.
I did too, honestly, because one of the things that I found was like I wanted to help out much more on HBO, and I'm like I can't actually do anything except what they tell me, and I feel
Right.
useless, but I want to do something.
I feel like, and I was on the one I was on most recently, like I helped. Like I was there reporting and like something needed to be carried. I'm like, I'll take that. And they're like, okay, here. Like I just
Hey, if you volunteer on
did.
an indie set, anybody will just throw things at you. Like,
I,
never volunteer unless you mean it at an indie set, people.
yes. I love that. Of course,
Mhm.
we all want to work on the big shows and have our lives be a little bit easier, but I don't know, there's just something about the like everybody in the pool all skate
Yeah,
that I really
it's
like.
something fun and amazing. So
I remember I was on a set. I produced David Kittredge, who has a new movie out called Borman and the Devil, which is a documentary about John Borman and The Exorcist 2, which is like burning it up right now. It is getting accolades after accolades. I produced Dave's first film called Pornography, a Thriller. And, you know, it was, again, a modestly budgeted feature, but I was a producer and I was, you know, getting craft service every day and, you know, like doing all these various different things. And I had a second AD, not the one that's credited, who I asked to like make a copy of something on their way to work the next day, on their way to set the next day. And this AD is like, well, that's not really my job.
oh.
And I fired them. I made them, because I was just like, and I in the moment I was like, are you kidding me? I'm shopping for craft service every morning. What kind of set do you think you're on? Like, everybody here is making $75 a day to make a movie. Like, what are you talking? You know, obviously nobody's being paid what they're worth, but the gig on these movies is like everybody does it to get it done because we love to make movies. Anyway, so I didn't fire them on the spot, but I asked them to hand over all their paperwork at the end of the day. It was the end of the first week, so we had a break. So I'm like, oh, can I just get all the paperwork, et cetera, et cetera?
Mm.
And then I called the first AD and I made them fire him.
Hey, I can't blame you. I mean, I had somebody do that to me once, and I just was like, "Do you know what we're on? Do you know what this is? This isn't. We don't have defined positions here, people. This is.
Yeah.
I mean, we do and we don't because this is an independent project.
Yeah, like yeah, it's and you know what? If that's your thing, if that's your line in the sand, good for you. Great.
Yeah, no,
Be that person.
This is. I want to know, so I don't work with you then. So
Correct. Yeah.
I always love when somebody shows me who they are, so I don't have to work with them again. So
my one of my producers on Socket, John Carosa, said, and I don't know if he made this up or if it's something that you hear frequently, but I heard it from him for the first time and I've used it ever since. At the end of every production, every person that I've worked with goes on one of two lists. And I was like, I've carried that with me to this day, because it's really true. Like, and you know, again,
yeah.
If you aspire to more than that, I mean, I guess we all would love for that to happen. And you don't want to be taken advantage of in that way. If you see it as being taken advantage of, great. I'm just sort of like in the Little Rascals, let's put on a show.
Yeah. I mean,
kind of mode at all times.
Yeah. And that's a big part of everything, I think, is being that's why I think you see people in independent work.
I can't hear you right now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I cannot hear you.
If anyone's in the comments, can you hear me?
It's interesting. All right. I'm looking at all my settings. Yeah. Oh, wait, hang on. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
All right, so this is so lame. My earbuds from when I worked out this morning are sitting on my desk.
Oh.
And my computer decided to like Bluetooth them.
Just out of nowhere, like that.
Out of nowhere. Ghost. So I'm sorry, what you were saying. So I didn't hear anything you said after I was on my grandstand.
I was just saying that there's a reason why a lot of independent production companies tend to work with the same people over and over again, because it's or why people with good reputations get passed around. Like if you look at Mick, the DP for the contract. He was also the DP for Hollow Lake that Troy Escamilla is doing, and he's also the DP for Meat, which Roger Connors did. And it's because he has a good reputation that he gets passed around now. So he's like our straight party bottom. So but
is he straight?
Is he straight? Yes. But he is straight, but he is one of the few people who is straight who I would consider to be a real true ally. That sounds very dramatic. That wouldn't sell us out.
Right.
But
I had a straight DP on Socket, and that movie's filled with full frontal nudity
yeah,
and gay sex, and it was like he was a Vietnam War photographer. He was just like,
no,
if it's on
Mick
the
is
other
telling
side of
me
the
we
camera.
should do more. He's like on the contract. He's like we should show. We can show more. We can show more if you want. I don't know if you've seen Meat yet or Hollow Lake. Well, Hollow Lake's not done yet, but
I haven't,
Meat.
and I feel terrible. Hey, Meat people, Roger, everybody, you sent me that link so nicely, and I still haven't watched it yet. I apologize, but now that you've mentioned, I'm going to watch it immediately.
I saw Meat a little while back, and I got to see I got to see a cut of Hollow Lake. Mick is a straight person who is very comfortable with penis. So
Good for him. It's funny. There's so much stuff coming out right now. Like Meat is finally coming out. Hollow Lake, your film, The Contract. The Saint Drogo boys are working on Queen of Rats right now.
Yep.
Like I know Michael Varotti's got something. I think he just shot something brewing. Like there's lots of queer stuff happening right now.
And Chris Moore too.
Yes. Like
he just shot a movie
at
the same time I did. So.
Oh, and who's that director? Walls, Marcel Walls. Am I thinking? Is that the right name? He's always got something brewing. He did the the Herschel Gordon Lewis sequel that I'm blanking on. Joe Castro did the effects. Anyway,
I'm not sure I know Marcel, but I'll have to take a look. But yeah, no, we're starting to develop like a little collective of queer horror filmmakers and producing very queer horror, and I think it's kind of exciting.
I wish I was on that coast with all y'all because I would definitely be in it to win it with you guys.
Oh my god, I would love. I wish I could get you out here because next weekend, everybody, we're going to be filming pickups for The Contract, and so I would love to have Sean on set. Make Fangoria send you out to New York next week.
Oh, I wish. They did send me to Florida. That's true. That was sort of a special case. But yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat. It's interesting because back in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, there was a whole crew of people out there, Alan Rowe Kelly and Bart Mastronardi and Michael Varotty was out there at the time, that were a real, and there's more folks that I'm not mentioning, but they were a real tight-knit crew, and they all worked on each other's movies, and it was really great to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so jealous because in Los Angeles, it's not really that way. It's just a different vibe. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's just the industry, quote unquote, is out here. So there's, people are just sort of going off in every direction. And so sort of keeping a rep company together is harder. So I was always so envious. So now that I hear that, I'm watching you all too, like working on each other's movies and things like that. And I'm just, again, it makes me want to get back in the game.
Well, it's never too late to jump back in. So
I know.
I mean, I'll be sending you a new script to read for my next feature very soon.
Oh, good.
Because I already have that ready to go. So
we're cranking it out. Are you still doing new episodes of your series?
So Skeleton Crew: The Edward Chronicles is the spin-off of Skeleton Crew, which I wrote but Phil Kors directed, and that's coming out right now.
Okay.
And then I'm actually filming season 6 of Skeleton Crew right now, so that'll be coming out early next year. And then The Art of Blowing It season 2, which was Ashley Monique Menard's mockumentary that I produced. I ended up writing season 2 for her as well this year. And so we're in post-production on that, and that's going to come out probably January, I think. So.
What about Demon Doctor? Going back into Demon Doctor?
Don't worry, Demon Doctor season 3 will be coming, I promise. I probably won't get to it till mid of next year or end of next year, but we're definitely going to do more of Demon Doctor because that's near and dear to my heart. And then in 2027 is when I'm going to film untitled revenge horror movie that I don't know the name of yet. So.
Oh my gosh, you get it done. It's crazy to me how much you put out there. Well, and my other question, this sounds like I'm interviewing you, but but what are you doing as like I know that your series are on YouTube.
Mhm.
What are you doing with the films? Are they also on YouTube or are they
No,
like
they're not. I'm not going to put my feature films on YouTube for a number of reasons. Partially because of graphic aspects of it. Partially because I want to do something more with them than not just YouTube, because YouTube is a great tool for people. But I think that so basically Brooklyn Butcher, I've already released it on Blu-ray, so
Mhm.
you can get Brooklyn Butcher on Bluray, and it is on Amazon Prime as well. I was able to. I was one of those few people that still had an account that was able to be legacied in. I can no longer add anything else to that account, but I
right?
somehow was able to get snuck Brooklyn Butcher in there. So people can watch Brooklyn Butcher on Amazon, or they can get a Blu-ray of it. And now I'm trying to figure out what to do with A Taste of Youth. I've approached Film Hub. You probably know what Film Hub is, I'm assuming.
Yes, I do.
For those of you who don't know, Film Hub is sort of like a company that it's sort of like YouTube, uh, that will go to other people and try to sell your movie to them. Um, and so I'm hoping that I can do that with A Taste of Youth and maybe get it on like Tubi. I
Mhm.
would love to figure out how to get on Shutter, but I don't know how to contact people from Shutter.
Right.
And I'm also I'm open to any, if anyone out there is a distributor and they want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to you. I reached out to a couple of distributors and they told me my movies were not what they were looking for. So
It's so tough out there because again, also distributors, so many of them are thieves, right? So you're just
yes.
you're rolling the dice on them. I mean, Film Hub I think is pretty above board, I hear, but you know, the percentages are rarely in the filmmaker's favor, that kind of thing.
In
Uh,
Film Hub, they actually are quite in the filmmaker's
are they
favor.
good?
So yeah,
Okay, good. You know, the same
they do an 80-20 split.
interesting. The St. Drogo boys, Monster Makeup, they've just decided to self-distribute their Blu-ray. Um,
Yes, they're doing that right now, and they're trying to figure out what to do for streaming.
yeah.
And they're not. Yeah,
I wonder if it's literally just everybody has their own individual like streaming situation. And I don't know what that would be, but in my head, it's like, well, you have a website and you put your movie on it and it's hosted somewhere and you know, you have it like there's a paywall
yeah,
situation or like like Patreon will let you do like one-offs, things like that. And so you just drive people there. I mean, you know, we have
that's
to,
an idea. I didn't even think about that.
yeah. I mean, with books, like, you know, my book, you know, it's with the publisher, but I still have to do every ounce of publicity for that book. Like they
Hmm.
do zero. They just collect the money from the sales. Obviously, it's in their catalog and things like that. But like, I'm the one out there, you know, the rest of the writers out there shilling it.
Yeah,
So the next book I'm going to do, I'm going to self-publish, and because I figure if I'm going to do all this work to sell the book, why not get all the money?
yeah.
Uh, and I feel like
Um,
that's kind of where independent film is going these days, right?
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, Kunaki is a website which I do the Blu-ray through, and it's ridiculously easy. It's print on demand.
Mhm.
If I you go to the link, you click on it, you buy it, and they print it up and they send it to you, and I don't have to worry about anything
Mhm.
on my end. I don't have to have hordes of copies of it in my office,
Right.
and now if I want to go to like a con or something, I'll need to do that, but I can get copies of it for a different rate and everything
Yeah.
to do that with. So I think that people are, but then you get things like where Amazon, you used to be able to do that. You used to be able to put your movie on Amazon, but
Mhm.
now they've created a situation where you have to have a middle person,
Yeah.
a distributor, because they want to.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, having watched a lot of movies on Amazon during the pandemic, I know that there should be some things on there that should not have been on there.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I'm making a decent amount of change getting my book from the publisher at my author discount and then signing it and then selling it to people. And the reason I'm doing that is because the retail price is so high. It's ridiculously high in my
it
book.
is a high retail price because who is the publisher for it?
McFarland.
Yeah,
They're a,
I did. I was in a collection. The first time I was published was a book called Robin, 75 Years of Dick Grayson,
Mhm.
and I had a chapter on the costuming of Robin, and the McFarlane did that, and they were just it's a lovely book, but it's so expensive. I'm like,
They're an
why is this
academic,
book?
right? They're an academic publisher, so they're getting their books into libraries and like
Yeah.
single copies into libraries and things like that. So they charge more.
Mm,
So what I'm doing is I'm using my author discount and getting the book and making it available, and then even better because it's signed less than retail.
yeah.
So, that's. I was just thinking, you have the place that's making your Blu-rays on demand, but if you had like some that you signed and could sell, blah blah blah, like
And
that.
I'm doing that with homophobia. As I do tell people that if they want to purchase it from me directly, it's a slightly more because I have to go through the process of shipping it and all that.
Right.
But they can get it signed, and that's the excitement part. So
I know. Here's the thing. Also, my personal weird thing is I like to play store. So I kind of like having merch in my home that I that I love going to the post office. Like a lot of people hate that. I love it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm.
I mean that works. That makes sense. I think so.
Yeah.
We are actually over time, everybody.
Oh my gosh.
I always enjoy talking to Sean so much that I forget what time it is. I wanted to remind everybody, or let you know for the first time, we will not be having an episode next week because I will be filming pickups for the contract.
Yay!
So I will be back in 2 weeks, the Monday before Thanksgiving, and we'll be able to chat and I'll tell you how it all went and everything. But in the meantime, Sean, thank you so much for being here. How can people get a copy of your book directly from you? Signed?
Well, all you have to do. So my book, Queer Horror Film Guide. I literally should have one here to hold up. You can get it from me on any of my social media. So I'm Gay of the Dead almost everywhere. So I'm still hanging on Twitter, but mostly Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, or just me on Facebook. Just reach out to me via DM, and I will let you know how to get a signed copy of my book.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, have a great week. I will see you and have a great 2 weeks. Go to thecontractfilm.com if you can. Help us out. And happy Monday, everybody. Bye.
And that's the tea.